Welcome to the Predictive Playbook. I'm your host, John Ryan, for Monday, May 3rd, 2021. And I think this is the fifth show now for today. I know these guys have been on shows today as well, and we've learned a lot of information. I had the privilege of having Paul Carr on from True Media Sports talking about UEFA, which I can say really fast now because I'm becoming a knowledgeable soccer fan. I'm not fanatic yet, but Paul has done real well. He's undefeated with his picks on my show, and we scoped out what's going to happen in the semifinal of the UEFA Premier Championship. So it's a pretty cool thing. Yeah, tomorrow at 3 and Wednesday at 3. You have some franchise named Man City. You ever heard of them?
A couple times.
I have them at plus 550 to win this thing. So hopefully they can get it done tomorrow. The final.
They look like they're on their way. PSG's got their work handed. They're probably not going to do it. I mean, PSG had a 1-0 lead in the first semifinal, and then arguably had two huge monumental mistakes, aka Philadelphia Phillies the last 3 nights, but we'll hold off on that, Tony. We'll hold off on that because I know your blood pressure is still pretty high.
Yeah, I don't get too
talk
high
about that in 10 minutes. But PSG was similar. They made a mistake in a free kick on a wall that allowed a score, and all of a sudden, Man City won 2-1. So to expect PSG to score 2 or 3 goals. Probably not likely. But the one thing that probably is likely is that the laid-back version of Joe Girardi as manager of the Philadelphia Phillies and so much more tame than he was with the Yankees is probably going to come to an end. And I would not have wanted to be in that locker room last night after that display. And for those that don't know, the Mets scored a run in Little League fashion, and I mean Little League fashion.
Yep.
Guys running around third, full bore, player for the Phillies. I'm not going to name any names, but the player for the Phillies had the ball maybe 10 yards beyond the first base bag and threw a lollipop to the, I guess that would have been the second baseman.
Shortstop. I don't know who it was now. Yeah. Long story short, his initials were.
I think did the first baseman flip it to the second baseman?
Yeah,
I
think that's what happened. So, I saw that, and I'm a gentleman. Tony,
was it Hoskins?
I'm a gentleman.
Were his initials Rice Hoskins?
Yes, it was. I think it was.
Yeah.
If you say it was, then that's what it was.
It wasn't Segura though. Wasn't he hurt? And Segura hurt? I thought whatever it was. Brad Miller, Matan, I don't know who it was, but
I mean it was on Hoskins. Like the second baseman had no chance, really no chance at that point. I mean, it was on Hoskins for just flipping him the ball.
The guy scored while the ball was in the air.
Listen, I know this is unfair. It's likely inaccurate. But this all goes back to Friday, and when the Phillies are down 3-2, and Alvarado is telling, "This is my house. Get the hell out of here." He strikes out Smith. Well, I don't know who it was. Long story short on that is, I cannot tell you how open and how much I welcome passion in professional sports because we lack a lot of that. But the one thing I despise and the one thing that turns my stomach is, I'll use NFL as an example, is when a guy makes a sack and starts going into a sack dance and they're down 21 points. Yeah, because if I'm the coach, you're not playing.
Right.
First off, you're not playing.
100%.
It's different if it's a tie game. It's a big third down sack. They're going to punt late in the game. And I'm all for you getting excited. Do not get excited when we're down 21 points because you tackled the quarterback in the backfield.
What did Walter Payton do after every touchdown?
That's Marcus Allen.
What's
Act
that?
like you've been there. Marcus Allen used to always say,
Oh, yeah.
act like you've been there.
Yep.
Before.
Yeah, well, Walter
Act
Payton
like
would
you've been
score and then hand it to the referee.
That's right. Yep.
And then run off the field.
Yeah.
But
yes.
Yet we have penalties in college football where if they give 2 high fives, it's a misconduct.
Yes. Yeah, they've relaxed that to some degree, but yeah, it's not. It's certainly. I just think there's a time and place, and I'm all for trash talking. I don't mind the trash talking stuff, but when you go, he's gone way too far, guys. That's just way too far. You're essentially challenging
the line by a good 10 yards.
You're challenging. And if you challenge me like that, I'm going to walk away in most cases, especially at my age. And if you invite me to the tunnel, I'm going to bring my friends. But
never go alone, Tony. Never go.
Not
alone.
anymore. I learned my lesson. I'm too old now, and my wife won't let me carry a gun. So
I agree with you, though. It's refreshing to see a guy like VR, make that play. Because he could have just as easily went through the motions and stopped at third. Because if he stopped, by the time he realizes the ball is flipped, he can't just run home. He wouldn't score it, or it would be too close to try to do something like that. But I mean, he followed it the whole way. He never broke stride, and he really probably won that game for the Mets because that really was
probably so. I'm on Philly. I think he won. But all this starts, the mess that the Phillies were this weekend, and they were a mess, John.
Yeah, big mess.
Started with that strikeout and that ridiculously arrogant reaction by Alvarado.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
I used to, when I coached some of these powerhouse USSSA teams that we went to nationals and did well. Mm-hmm. I will say that it was a great experience, many years. But you know what I used to teach the boys? We'd come across a chippy team, right? They trash talk, and I'm talking like about family members and all this stuff, right?
That's getting carried away too.
So what I told them was that if you really want to get in their head,
beat them,
and you really want to come out on top in this thing, you go to first base and the first baseman says something stupid, you act like you didn't even hear it. Yeah. You don't even move your body. You don't look at him. You just stare at the third base coach, and we take it from there. And I don't think I ever lost a game to a team that tried to get you out of your game to win, knowing that you were the better team. That's the only, it's just ridiculous coaching.
I agree.
Yeah, every time a kid gets on first base, make sure you talk about his family and how his Christmas was. I mean, it's insane.
Well, it was great. They got 2 Xboxes.
Yeah, that's right. Oh, sorry, I have to run the bases now.
My worst enemy.
My teammate just hit a home run.
Died. It was a great Christmas. You want to be on my bad list too? Biatch, that kind of thing.
Well, why don't we start out with the NBA angle of the day, which appeared on Wager Talk from what I hear.
It did. I was there.
I caught the tail end of it, and Rob Vino was on. And by the way, he's not here tonight because he's going to a baseball game.
He's been suspended 3 days.
He's actually going to a baseball game in person.
For getting cocky.
Phillies game? You going to the Phillies game?
So hopefully the weather will hold off. But I didn't catch the presentation of the I think Steve Merrill took some of my angles, gave me credit, and it put down the Lakers. And he was talking to Ski. So I think Ski got a little upset because at the end, Rob Vino said, well, if John ever had hopes of playing that grand piano at Ski's house, it's out the window. So I haven't had time to go back and review the tape.
When you're there, will you pick up my jersey he owes me, by the way?
But anyway, here is the betting system of the day. And this one I kind of like, and I want to see what you guys think too. I put the injuries there and the fact that on the 76ers injury list, at least between now and 5:30, no players listed. I mean, that has to be the first time an NBA team had no players listed, not even like for rest or whatever. But we knew that Zach LaVine had been out already since a while now, and Vukovic is questionable with a hip. So I would say if he's out, this is going to be up and down the court a lot. So bet the over with a road team playing on back-to-back nights in a total of 210 to 219.5. Road team is coming off a road win, scoring at least the league average of 111 points. The road team has won at least 60% of their games, and the host is a losing record for the season. 26-12, 68%. Last 10 NBA seasons. Bet the over, which I think you guys is right around 214.5 last I checked, if somebody has it.
Are we speaking of
Sixers, Bulls,
and Bulls?
Oh, it's down to 212.
211.5, 212.
Yeah, I like it even more.
It's come down. It's from the opener. Well, before I tell you that it's come down, I will tell you that I'll use an overnight.
Probably isn't playing.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, I've got some thoughts on this, but.
Well, fire away.
Yeah.
All right, so I guess the biggest concern here for me would be the fact that it looks like the Bulls could be without LaVine, Vukovic, or both of them. I don't know what's been confirmed yet. Like if either of them have been confirmed playing or confirmed out. My screen has LaVine as doubtful and Vukovic as questionable. But if they were to be without those two, I'd have a hard time betting it over, just because that's such a big amount, a large percentage of the Bulls scoring. Second, doesn't this kind of fall into the lower total, wanting to play the under? And that's really a question for me. But
it does and it doesn't, because as we've said so many times on the show, like these betting angles that I present is just one part of the research that goes into identifying a bet. So,
sure.
Yeah,
so
they talked about it in the next game that I actually want to talk about, which is the Indiana. I'm going to start.
Before you go on to that, John, before you go on, I'll tell you this. I just checked with I just conversed with the guy who I trust with lineups, and he says all indications are LaVine won't play. In fact, the total and where it's moved is probably your best visual indicator that LaVine's out, because it's dropped 4 points. But he does say Vukovic will be playing. That's what he says.
okay.
Wow. So, when was the last time LaVine played, though? He's been out.
It's been a couple weeks. And it's been a hit and miss with some totals with Chicago without LaVine. There are certain situations where I would still, depending on the number, would still go north. But here's the deal: I don't trust Kobe White to be efficient and on point, and Garrett Temple's not going to make up for LaVine in any way, fashion, or form. So what you're left with is those two: Patrick Williams, Vukovic, and then Theus. That's your starting five for Chicago. It doesn't inspire a lot of points. It doesn't inspire a bunch of defense either.
I'll counter that with the show we did with Rob Vino saying when Milwaukee had no starters in the game.
That's a second rotation. That's a second rotation that's much more offensively capable than the Chicago Bulls' second rotation.
Good point.
Yeah.
That's a good point. That one dropped, 229 down to 222.
Right. That total will tell you a little bit too as well. The fact is, Philly, there's a lot of question marks. This thing can go any way, shape, or form. It can. And the truth is, this is a game where how many minutes are they going to give Simmons and Harris and Embiid? If this game goes as I think it would go, if Simmons plays 30 minutes, then I have a really difficult time playing the over. If Simmons wasn't playing, I'm over. I'll push in on an over.
Good point.
But this is just a betting angle. So this is not based on players, not based on injuries. It's based on numbers and trends. Correct?
Yep, and it's a bucket of 25 of them.
There you go. It
25
doesn't say
betting
anywhere on
angles
here.
that
It doesn't say anywhere where there's your best. If it's said on here and the highest scoring player for one of the teams is out, then I'm all in again.
Yeah. It's the chasing injuries.
Yeah, don't chase it. You're a loser.
Yeah.
Chase injuries. You're a loser.
Right.
Yeah, I think it's a good point. I think it's always interesting, this stuff. And I think if you're a person who likes these kind of trends and you want to be a strict numbers player where you can play overnights. In this situation, I probably would have waited to play this based on what the three of us just discussed, and that's Levine, the injuries, how long has he played, maybe Vukovic is out. All those things matter. With the Bulls, they matter because of what you're getting from that second rotation.
Yep.
is truthfully not much of anything.
Well, we'll see what happens. It's probably a game that I'm going to not do anything pre-flop, but if I get numbers down around 200 in game, then I go over.
Oh yeah, maybe. Yeah, it depends on the score. Yeah, but
if
especially if it's close.
Yeah.
Then you always have the overtime factor too.
Well,
they're going to be. Yeah, Philly will quit if Philly gets up by 20. You won't see Simmons, you won't see Embiid, you won't see Harris, you won't see Curry. You'll see a little bit of Danny Green, and you'll see some. You'll see a second rotation with Philly that's capable, but they're not going to care. They're going to be more interested in using 20 seconds of the shot clock and getting on to the next game.
Well, speaking of second units, we'll segue ourselves to the next game.
Okay.
And this is the game where I might have. I don't know if Steve Merrill offended somebody. Where I get the blame, but we'll have to find out. But
he doesn't offend many people. He's pretty politically correct. Go ahead. I'm listening.
He just likes saying that he and I are the only two guys at Wager Talk and Sports Memo that are permitted and qualified to say catch a falling knife, and he says it an awful lot, which is starting to get a little concerning.
Yeah, I know. I've heard that many times, and as soon as you mention, Wall Street, Steve goes into this delusionary dimension where he is a trader, not a night trader like we are most nights. He's a day trader again.
Well, believe me, to be a successful day trader, even in this environment, let alone the 90s, you got to be there. You got to be in the pit.
Yes.
Now, we don't have pits anymore, but back in the day, you couldn't do that from outside of New York City. You didn't have a chance.
No.
I mean, you really didn't. It wasn't like anybody was breaking rules or anything. You had to be there at the moment.
And I'm not one that believes too much about inside trading. I mean, we deal with inside trading in this business all the time. That's one of the edges. If you have some inside information, it's not looked frowned upon. It's looked at as a positive. Am I correct? In Wall Street, if you're dealing with insider information, then you're a criminal.
Yeah.
I don't see it
like
that
Martha
way.
Stewart.
Yeah, well, no, Martha's.
And she had no clue that she was breaking the law.
Right.
I totally believe that.
Yeah, I don't even think she has a clue. But nothing against Martha. I'm sure that her relationship with Snoop Dogg is platonic in every way, shape, or form. I'm not certain.
Yeah.
I'm not certain, but
you have reason to believe.
Yeah.
But moving over to the Denver Nuggets taking on the LA Lakers, who suddenly are in the 7th seed of the Western Conference, are coming off back-to-back home losses with LeBron, with AD, losing as double-digit favorites. And now all of a sudden they're only a 4.5-point dog to a team that is vastly better than the Sacramento Kings, for example, and the Toronto Raptors. And I watched the Kings game in that fourth quarter. And I think that quarter started out with the Lakers with an 8-point lead. And it was mind-boggling. And I would like to think Vogel's a pretty good coach. But it reminded me of like the Phillies game, like the silliness, the stupid shots, turnovers. passes thrown out of bounds. That to me is not a team to bet on. And I guess where I got myself in trouble is I said, Ski, rightfully so, intelligent better, says you never put money on a bad team. And I said to Steve, if you get a chance, ask him now if the Lakers are on that list. That's all I said.
I know this. If you give me the worst team on the board tonight, what's the worst team on the board tonight?
Oh, it's a Detroit Orlando game for sure.
Okay, so if Detroit and Orlando are the worst two teams on the board and they're playing each other, somebody's going to win. And if you're telling me right now Orlando's going to get 15 points tonight, I'm putting money on a bad team.
I think the bet would be Orlando, by the way, but we can talk about that game next.
Yeah. Here's bad team.
Money, I'd be there all night.
I guess you don't want to chase bad teams. I think that's sound advice. I really do. However, there are certain situations when the handicap makes a bad team a good bet.
Yeah. So you're going the Lakers way, huh?
No, I'm just saying that I don't want to put such rigid. It's just not that black and white for me. Bad teams. There's bad teams. There's good teams, and bad and good are subjective, right, guys? It's subjective.
Of course.
I said today on the baseball show that I'm not a fan. I'm a fan of what my money is. That's who my favorite team is. It changes sometimes twice, 5 times a day. Depends. I do have passion for a team that I grew up with. I have some hates, some dislikes, some loves, some passion. That's a different blog. It's a different video, but most important thing is, it's funny, isn't it? During a season, we will become a fan of a team that we've been so successful with, in the handicap and essentially in our investments, and we also become. We have foes that have just broke our hearts and disappointed us and performed to a despicable level. But then all of a sudden, that despicable level, maybe they're not quite as bad as maybe I just overreacted. Maybe it was a knee jerk. It's up and down. It's 162 games, 6 months. We will love and hate teams more than any fan. True. Bottom line, straight win-loss standings, city alma mater fan. We're up and down, and that's normal. I think it's normal for me. I would think it's normal for most, for you guys too.
Yeah, I definitely don't disagree with that. As far as this game is concerned, I looked at this one as like something I was going to potentially want to try to bet today. I actually like the Nuggets here, but this number's too big for me. That's really what it comes down to. If this and of course it's moved a little bit. LeBron is out. It looks like Davis might play, but all of that is really kind of irrelevant to me at this point. If this was like Nuggets -1. Where I could bet them to win the game. I would definitely lean toward the Nuggets. The Nuggets are a team over the years where I usually try to fade them on the road and see if I can find them in a favorable spot at home. Their road record's decent this year. I think it's 19-11. Their home record's really good, which is sort of the norm. So they're pretty good. They're pretty good on the road. A little bit worse. But I lean Nuggets, but at laying 4 or 5, I have no interest in doing that. So not much of a play here for me. I think the Nuggets probably win the game, but I just don't have a strong opinion against that number.
I think what I said I had a show with Steve Merrill today too. I think I already said that though.
What did you say?
That I had a show with Steve Merrill.
You did. Yeah.
But
I will say this:
I told him
I faded the Nuggets when they were playing the Clippers on Saturday, okay? And everybody I heard talk about the Nuggets, they were 8-1 since losing Murray. Okay, lose Jamal Murray, lose the pick and roll with Jokovic. But they're 8-1. Who cares, right? Well, here's what I said, and I said that this is the Clippers, and with or without Leonard at the Staples Center, Denver, I think, has been during that 8-1 stretch. They'd only played two teams that were better than 500, and those two teams were Portland, and who was the other team? I think it was Memphis. No, it was Miami. And combined, they're 5 games over 500. So who have they played during that 8-1 stretch that really tested them, or you felt like that would make them worthy of being? And I think they were 4-point dogs. It was only 4 points. I think I laid 4 with the Clippers that night. And yes, the Clippers or the Nuggets won 110-104. Jokovic had 30, 14, and 7. He led the team in points, rebounds, and assists. In this game, in this situation, I think it's right. I think even if Davis plays, without LeBron, guys, or when they were going through that period of time without LeBron and Davis, the Lakers 8-12 straight up without LeBron when he was injured. Now 0-2 with LeBron, right? So that makes him. I always say that when a guy comes back from being injured for that long, it's typically a negative. It's their liability because they're, you know what I mean?
100%. Right. I'm still kicking myself for not playing the Raptors on Sunday. I looked at it all morning and I was so close with it. And for whatever reason, in my head, I said, oh, there's LeBron, there's Davis. The line bumped a little tiny bit. And I was like, well, I've had a good week. I already won today. Let me just leave it be. But once, of course, by halftime, I was already like, oh, I cannot believe, because I bet the Raptors on Saturday, and I got a win with the Raptors plus 6.5 against the Jazz, and it was basically the same spot. The team the Raptors were chasing had lost, so it was pretty much the same spot for the Raptors the next night. And I just, like you're saying, I normally look at it like that, and I did, and for some reason, I just got sucked into the market a little bit, right? Where I saw something going that way, and I was like, oh, is this just going to be, LeBron and AD, and they're just going to go off because the national TV game, they just lost. So, but I'm still fading the Lakers. And that's part of the reason I have no interest in doing it tonight, because if I go against them tonight, they'll win. That's just how it goes, right?
Yeah. Well, here, I said last year, when LeBron, I think they were, first off, they're the world champions. Nothing else needs to be said. They're the reigning world champions. However, I think they're maybe one of the less than in the last 20 years. That Lakers team is one of a team I wouldn't necessarily put back head to head with any of the previous champions. Okay. And the fact was also that they had no point guard. If LeBron wasn't playing, they were less than on the floor because they didn't have anybody to handle the ball. Nobody to handle the ball. Now, I'm not saying that's the case this year. They've made some adjustments, but they're still not the same team. They're a completely different team, guys, with LeBron. How they approach a game. If you go through if you watched them and you go through some of the box scores, you'll see that they just aren't the same team, and they're hard for me to put my arms around. They just are. The Schroeder. Listen, I'm a Schroeder. I think Schroeder's a good, hard. He gives everything he has every night, but he's not a guy that I'm going to jump on the back of. And I don't think the other 4 guys on the court are going to jump on the back of Schroeder either. So
I have one more NBA thought.
Yeah.
One I didn't. So, I mean, I would consider myself a Knicks fan just because I'm a New Yorker and I tend to watch a lot of Knicks basketball. I actually love this Knicks team. I mean, this is as excited I've been to watch the Knicks in probably a decade.
Long time.
Yeah, a long time. This feels like a bad spot for them tonight. I kind of like Memphis here.
Yeah.
You know, if you look, the Knicks, they're not quite as good on the road. Definitely you know, they're losing record on the road. So they're 14-17 on the road, and this just feels like a game that the Grizzlies just have to have. Whereas I know the Knicks have just been so hot. I mean, they're one of those teams. It's a hard team to bet against. But I think you look at the 14-17 on the road, they're starting to get into that 4 seed range where they're probably feeling like, well, they're going to obviously feel a lot more comfortable than they did a month ago when they were below 5.
I couldn't agree more. I rarely look at Memphis at home. I'm one of those that I love Memphis on the road. They're a better road team than they are at home. They have been, especially against a number, even in the standings. So this is a spot where I see this game, I see the number, and I'm not going to say what I usually say, but I just say I run from it. I'm just not in that.
Yeah. Ultimately, I decided I didn't really want to lay points with Memphis. That's what kind of kept me off of this year. But it just feels like a spot where the Knicks could get run out a little bit. They're in the middle of a road trip. They've got they've got some high profile games coming up too. They go Nuggets, Suns, Clippers, Lakers, which are I mean, you know, the Clippers game is a big national TV game. Lakers Knicks is always a big deal. And this just, if there was ever sort of they just crushed the Rockets. They've won. Their only loss is that loss to the Suns that was their only loss since April 7th. So if there was ever a spot where they just kind of came out, went through the motions, were looking ahead to sort of some bigger games, I could see this being it. And Memphis is kind of in that dogfight in the play-in. They're kind of in that play-in grouping right now. It just feels like a really good spot for the Grizzlies. But again, the number kind of scared me off for making it anything sort of a substantial play. But I think the Grizzlies, I don't know if you can do anything with that, but I do like the Grizzlies to win tonight.
I'm going to say John. I'm going to say John and Mr. Trigger. I have an ESPN gig to do here in about 8 minutes.
Oh, that's great.
And I'm going to get out and I'm going to dive out. But I will say this: I wanted to have more time because I actually like a bad team tonight. I like Detroit at home over Orlando.
Right.
I just do. Lots of reasons why I like it. If you think Detroit's in a rebuild, well, Orlando's they're still tearing the building down in Orlando. So, and I like it, believe it or not, I like Atlanta tonight. So those are the two teams I'm looked at. I've neither invested or pushed or recommended either, but just for the listeners, if they're even interested, the Blazers revenge tour, should I say, beating Indiana, Memphis, Brooklyn, Boston, that 6-day span on the road. I think this is a pretty good spot for Atlanta. I just do. I think
I'm with you on that one, Tony.
Yeah.
Tony, I'll support your Detroit call. If you look at they've been pretty good at home.
Against they're 17-12. I think 17-12 against a number at home.
Yeah, you just look since the middle of April. 2-point loss to the Clippers. Win over the Thunder. Win over the Cavs. Win over the Hawks. A loss to Dallas. I mean, so really, that's pretty impressive in terms of their last few home games. Seems like they're playing hard at home, and the Magic are god awful. So
they are, and I like Dwayne Casey, guys. I don't know about anybody else. I'm a fan. Dwayne Casey made very little noise. I think when he was essentially built that, or at least engineered and orchestrated that championship team in Toronto, and was let go the year before. Of course, the nurse comes in and they win it. You never hear much from Casey. He just goes about his business and tries his best. So I like.
And if there was ever a game that the Magic might care about from here till the end of the season, it's Celtics on Wednesday.
I agree.
Like they have nothing to play for, but if they were ever going to care about a game, that's probably their last sort of big home game. They only have 2 home games, Celtics and T-Wolves, but Celtics tend to be a team that a team like the Magic would get up for, a team that's out of it, same division. That they probably a measuring stick team in the same division. So I could definitely see Orlando looking ahead to Boston a little bit from like a perspective of caring about the game.
Which is hard. Yeah. And before I go, I'll say this. These two, before Orlando traded half their team away at the deadline, these two met 2 times in a 3-day period in back-to-backs, and they split. And the one Detroit won, Casey outcoached him. He made adjustments that were almost perfect. And I think he's ready for him tonight. Detroit small number -2. Essentially, if you didn't want to lay the 2, $1.30, $1.28. I see $1.27 on the money line. There you go.
Love it.
I'm out of here. Nick, good luck. Johnny, I'll see you tomorrow.
You too, Tony. Thanks for stopping by, bud. Good luck on
guys.
ESPN. So, good breakdown there, Adam. I want to mention one thing to you here. This kind of shows what you're talking about with Memphis and the Knicks, being that the Knicks have outperformed by such a wide margin that the rubber band now is due to stretch back, and that Memphis has been involved in some tough physical games that have gone under the total, reflecting better defensive play. So it goes like this. You're going to bet against road underdogs after beating the spread by 30 or more points in their last 5 games, facing an opponent like Memphis that has gone under the total by 30 or more points in their last 3 games. That's hit 67% on 100 bets over the last 5 seasons. So I agree with you. I'm not going to the window with it because it didn't show up on some of my other models, but I would have a very heavy lean towards Memphis. And again, here's where you can make the in-game volatility work in your favor. Don't bet the game pre-flop. Wait to see how the game takes off, or put 50% down of your normal bet pre-flop. And then just scale in. So if in this game at 220.5 points, it's likely that somebody's going to run off 10 in a row. If you like Memphis, the Knicks are fully capable of running off 10 in a row. And this only applies to the first half. But if the Knicks run off 10 in a row, you bet the in-game immediately. And this is something I've been working on. I call it in beta form. But believe me, if there was, the next season, this will not be beta anymore. This will be part of my preferred premium picks that go to the clients. So it really does work. And the same thing with the total. The Denver game against the Lakers, last game on the board. I will definitely not bet that game pre-flop. I will do that. As I said, I'll get Denver at pick or maybe even plus 2.5. I'm not going to bet it pre-flop. If Denver blows them out right in the beginning, that's the way it goes. But volatility is your friend in the NBA games. There's all kinds of wild swings going on. And the last one that I want to mention here is the Washington Wizards Indiana Pacers game. I think if I remember right in the database, it's the highest total this year at 246. This is a game where you don't fade it. The only bet to make is the over. These teams can score in rapid fashion. And here, if you do get a situation, like here's one strategy I'll mention to you guys. You do 50% over or 25%, some number. Let's use the example 50% on the over pre-flop. So we're at 246. Then as the game goes on, I'm hoping that they get off to a meteoric start and they are scoring points in reckless abandon, probably approaching 9 points per minute, which 9 times 12 is like 92, 102. It's way up there. That's per 12 minutes. So then you ought to see a total in the high 260s if that happens in the first quarter. So during the first 6 minutes, the first half of the first quarter, you get out to a start like that where it's averaging about 9 points or more per minute. you should see the live in-game go into the mid 260s at least, and then that would be an opportunity to buy back the over bet that you made before the start of the game. Then, you're just pretty much done for the night on that game. There's no sense trying to, buy the over, at 230 or 228, because if it goes down that far, then the over is obviously not going to be a winning play at 246. I think this is a game where, 260, the highest scoring game of the year. I'll go out on a limb and say it. There's no reason not to do that. Washington averages 107 107 shots per 100 possessions. Leads the league in the NBA all season long. And there's just no reason to try to be, cagey and bet the under, because it's what the market's telling you to do. It. If I lose, I lose, but I'm going to lose going down the ship with the over. What do you think of that one, Adam?
So I agree with you. I missed the first part of what you said. I got kicked out, but am I back with volume?
Yeah, you're good. You're good.
Okay, good. Yeah, StreamYard's being not being very nice to me today here, but there's no way I could take the under. Especially, we've talked about it on this show for weeks, how the big numbers, once it exceeds a certain number on the total, they've been cashing at a pretty good rate. So, yeah, you could maybe go in game and see if you can get a slow start, and then just hop on the over at a little bit of a better number. But yeah, no way to bet the under here for me. It would just be the over. I probably wouldn't bet it pre-flop. I would see if I could catch like a slow first 6 minutes or something and come in and play.
I think what you're going to see, and the danger of doing the 246, is that they get out to the hot start that I'm expecting, and then all of a sudden things kind of slow down. By their standards. So
right.
And that's why it's important to do the 265 or higher under bet to buy back your original over bet.
Yeah, because if they get out, and if they get out to a hot start, there's going to be almost no chance you can do anything in play with it from unless you decide you want to take the under, basically.
Right. Yep. If you have a little bit of time here, I'm going to show the spreadsheet again tomorrow in the show. I have it's Major League Baseball.
I've got some baseball if we have time for it. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, we got some minutes here. So now I'm sharing the screen, and I don't know if anybody can really see that because it's pretty small, but what this is it's the rankings of the baseball, Major League Baseball teams. Extra base hits, crooked numbers are where they score more than one. Hits per run ratio, hits, home runs, team left on base, percentage of base runners that score, quality starts, non-quality starts. What is this one here? It's bad starts, which is 4 innings and giving up 5 runs or more. Then we have pitchers used, away win percentage, home win percentage, innings led, innings tied, innings behind, and then the team. So there's a lot of information here, but I'm looking at quality starts. Percentage of quality starts is ranked here. This is from top to bottom. So 66% of the Dodgers games have had a starting pitcher go 6 or more innings that allow 3 or less earned runs. Mind-boggling. The Mets, as you would think, are 55%. A lot of that has to do with DeGrom, but they don't score any runs for him. For whatever reason that is, I don't know.
So, John, should we – I actually have a totals play in baseball. Should we test it out and see what the sheet says about it?
Sure.
All right. Yeah. So this is actually, so I've got one play right now up at Sports Memo. I have 2 baseball plays tonight. One I posted as a free play. One I have up for $9. This is the one for $9. So I'm going to give it out for free here. You know, I am on a 5-game KBO winning streak. If you want to buy something of mine, I'll have KBO up in a little bit. It'll also be $9, but this is my MLB play that I'm selling. So, you know, don't worry about buying it because we're going to talk about it right now. And I'm actually interested to just kind of give a little breakdown and then see what John's spreadsheet says about it. So I'm going to take the under in Blue Jays A's tonight. And I'll go in a little bit here about why I like the play. And then I'll let John sort of look at the spreadsheet and see if I'm onto something or not. So first of all, I have both of these teams as offenses that are slightly overvalued based on where I think people think they are. And let me just step back and explain that a little bit. I was very high on the Blue Jays coming into this season. Actually, I came on John's show and talked about how I had every possible Blue Jays over future imaginable. And so I've watched them closely, and I just they're starting to play good ball. They hit the ball in Atlanta over the weekend, but there's just something about this Blue Jays offense that just isn't. They're not quite as explosive as I thought they were going to be heading into the season. And I actually see some similarities between them and the A's, where the Blue Jays really rely on the home run quite a bit to score runs. The A's have been doing that for years. If you look at the past 3-4 years, the A's are always one of the worst batting average teams in the league, and they really need to hit the home run to score runs. So when I look at the pitching in this game, I see the Blue Jays. So their starter is Steven Matz. He's actually had a great season up until his last start where he got knocked around. But the observation here for me with Max is this. First of all, he's only given up 3 home runs in 27 innings this season. So that kind of plays toward my thought that, okay, well, Matz doesn't really give up home runs, and the A's need to hit home runs to score. Second, the only time Matz has really gotten hit all year was by the Nationals, which kind of makes sense because prior to this season, Matz spent his entire career in the NL East. So the one team that really knew him, that saw him this year, is uncoincidentally the team that hit him. If you look at his other 4 starts, the team that kind of hit him was the Rays, which makes sense because they've played a little bit. But the 3 prior starts, Royals, Angels, Rangers, 3 teams that haven't seen Matz at all, and he was pretty dominant. And the A's fall into that category. So you have an A's team that's seeing Matz, who doesn't really give up home runs, seeing him for the first time. And just to go deeper into the game, the Blue Jays bullpen's actually been really good. They're we'll call them a top 10 bullpen. And you could even make a case that they're maybe trending toward top 5. They don't give up home runs. So and the A's just don't tend to not string a ton of hits together, which is actually something I'll have John touch on because he's got a category for that. They tend to not string hits together. They need to hit the 3-run homer to score runs. On the other side, you have Frankie Montas starting for the A's, who is about as hit or miss as it gets. But again, when Montas is on, he can be really good. And I'll take my chances with him being on against a team that also hasn't seen him at all in the Blue Jays. The Blue Jays I don't think Montas has thrown a pitch against the Blue Jays in about 3 or 4 seasons. And I'm going off memory there, but
I don't think he's ever faced them.
I think he maybe did like prior to his breakout. But the thing is, this Blue Jays lineup has been constructed within the past 2 or 3 years. So if he did face them, it was like way before. It was probably back in 2017 before most of these guys were even on the team. So I like the unfamiliarity there. And then you go into the Oakland bullpen, which has also been really good. Like the A's bullpen has quietly been really good. So I just feel like I'm getting pitching across the board here. And the Blue Jays metrics are better than the A's, but they're still middling in a lot of offensive categories. Whereas it's like if the Blue Jays come out and hit a bunch of home runs, then this one could go over. But it's so much less likely that the Blue Jays are going to just hit balls out of Ring Central Coliseum, which is a less friendly home run park than what they played in all weekend, which is a minor league stadium where the ball seems to carry. So if I add it all up, I think I'm getting two pretty good starters. Obviously, Montas is always a little bit of a you got to hold your breath a little bit, but you'll know quickly if he's on, if he has his good stuff. If you look at the starts this year where he had his good stuff, Astros, he went 6 innings, gave up 1 run on 6 hits. Tigers, he shut him out for 6 innings. He was decent against the Rays last time out. He really only got blown up twice, but it was by the Dodgers, a team that saw him last year a bunch, and the Twins, another team that has seen him more. So I just think that if we can get a half decent start here from Montas, I think we will get a pretty good start from Matz. And then you've got the 2 bullpens that are both, top 7 or 8 bullpens in the league, we'll call it. And so I just think short of, unless we have like 5 combined home runs in this game where they're just launching the ball, I don't think we're going to get to 9 runs here. So I'm going to take a shot with under 8.5 in this game. I think there's going to be plenty of wiggle room. And if the home runs can hopefully come with people not on base, I'll call it like 4-2 or 4-3. I think it gets there.
Yeah, it's good stuff, Adam. I have a few points. I don't know, it really goes to the over. It just brings caution to the under. It's certainly not a bet to do the over, but Oakland is 53-20 facing left-handed pitchers. Matz is arguably struggling right now with like a 6.57 ERA over his last 3, but Oakland's only batting .211 on the season as a team. So that kind of gets offset there that Matz could have a really good start tonight, as you allude to. Oakland's only batting .212, but they're scoring 4.3 runs per game against left-handed starting pitching, which you alluded to. They're very good on getting guys around base. I had that up over on the chart that Oakland, both teams are in the mid 40% of base runners that score. So base runner gets on mid 40s, they're going to score.
That's kind of Oakland's problem is they don't get a ton of guys on. That's where they're.
But when they do,
right. Well, because they also, and I think Tony and I went back and forth on this like last week, they might. Since the beginning of 2020, I don't think there's been a more clutch team in baseball in terms of like every time this team needs a hit, they get it. 2 outs, guy on second, they just cash those opportunities in. But they've also lost 5 of their last 8 games. So I'm hoping that I'm catching the A's in one of those scuffling stretches. Like I'll tell you right now, if the A's were hot right now, this is not a bet I would make because when the A's are running good, they just get every big hit. It's like, it's 8, down 3-2 game, bottom of the 8th, 2 outs. When the A's are running good, they cash it in like every time. It's actually incredible that it hasn't. I thought for sure when they started the way they did this year that it was going to really come back in the other direction. But they've been pretty clutch this year too. I mean, last year in the small sample size, it was out of control, the rate that they were just getting walk-off hits, game-tying hits, hitting in extra innings, so on and so forth. But, yeah, so that's a little bit of a concern. I like the fact that I'm catching them in a little bit of a lull, though. They're 3-5 in their last 8 games. And if you go back before the last 2 games against the Orioles that kind of got out of hand, they really haven't hit much at all. I mean, the game before that, 3-2. The game before that, 3-2. They got shut out by the Rays. They lost 2-0. Lost 4-3. Won 2-1. Scored 1 run against the Orioles. So it's like you can kind of go back and they've had a couple games where they put up a big, like that 13-12 win over the Twins is still probably skewing their offensive numbers because following, like, if you look around that, they really haven't had many big offensive outbursts. So I it's a risk I'm willing to take, and I think some of their success against lefties is offset by the fact that they haven't seen Matt. So, if he can get through the order once where they're kind of fooled and he's into the fifth inning, then I think we have a pretty good chance to get the ball to the Blue Jays bullpen. And I'll take my chances with the Blue Jays relievers. They've been awesome so far this season. And the A's haven't really seen much of the Blue Jays relief pitching either because they didn't play last year. So, I just think there's good enough sort of underlying factors here for me to think that this is a low scoring game.
Yeah, I'm on that side. Just a little leery of Oakland against a left-handed starting pitcher. I like Oakland as a side actually better than the under. My personal opinion. Taking nothing away from you. Great.
No, I actually I agree there. If I had to take a side in this game, I think Montas is gonna, it's a little bit of a guessing game with him. This feels like a spot where he comes out with his really good stuff, and when he has his really good stuff, he'll go 7 innings and give up 1 run. So
that's very true.
I actually agree with that. I think if I was going to come out with a side here, I would take the A's. And again, the A's are just streaky. Like, had the A's come in winning 5 of 6 here, it might have been a different scenario for me where I would have gravitated more to the A's than the total. But without a doubt, my lean for a side in this game, if I was going to take a side in this game, would be Oakland. No question about it.
I'm looking at hits per run here, which is it's kind of like an efficiency ratio. How many hits does it take to score a run? So the best or the worst in the league, I should say, is 2.38 by the New York Mets, and that's understandable. The Tigers, understandable, and the Phillies recently have not been able to get that run in, and we already talked about their little league defense last night, which hopefully I never see again by any team. But then we get to the juggernauts, and it's not surprising that the Reds are number 1 in this category. It takes 1.5 hits, they score a run. Cardinals 1.56, Cubs, which I like them as an underdog tonight against the Dodgers, quite honestly. Then you have Diamondbacks, Mariners, Dodgers, and that's the misleading part about teams left on base statistic. So many people make the mistake of thinking that, wow, they're third worst in the league in number of men left on base. Well, that's actually a good sign because it means that they're getting so many men on base every single inning or every other inning that you can't come through all the time. And the Dodgers are 41% that they score. So I'd rather have the worst team left on base percentage in the league because that means I got guys on base a lot. That's what that means.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now the crooked number stat too is pretty interesting. So crooked numbers are innings where a team scored more than 1 run. It's a crooked number. It's not it's not a fence post. So not surprising, you have the Reds on number 1 again. Arizona's been really picking up the steam offensively. Of course, the Dodgers appear there in the top 10. Then you have the Blue Jays, which are batting .267 over the last 7 games. And that,
they
had a
big
breakout or an aberration.
Well, so if you look at the Jays over the last 2 weeks, they went from not, and I'm just going to pull up their schedule so I don't misspeak, but they went from not hitting a ton. So they had a stretch where they didn't hit at all in the Rays series, and they didn't really hit against the Red Sox or the Royals at all. But they kind of broke out against the Braves over the weekend. Now, I think some of that has to do with the playing in the stadium that they're playing in. That seems like an offensively favorable stadium. The TD ballpark or whatever it is outside of Tampa. And I don't think it's any question. I mean, the whatever it's called now, Ring Central or Oakland Coliseum, it's definitely, I don't know if it's a pitcher's park, but it's not like the most favorable offensive park. I still don't know how you quantify this, but there's without question it has to have the most foul ball outs still of any ballpark, because no place has that type of room.
Yep.
So you're probably, I don't know what kind of difference that is, but you probably pick up an extra out or two a game just that would go into the stands in any other ballpark. So
True.
Yeah, I guess, like I said, it would be easy to look at this game quickly and just be like, oh, that's an over because it's the Blue Jays. They hit, and everyone that's what I'm trying to say. Like, everyone still expects the Blue Jays to hit, like, because they come into the season, Vlad Guerrero lost 40 pounds. He's going to win a batting title. There's all these studs in their lineup, and that is true to an extent. But if you look at their offensive numbers outside of the home run numbers, they're not like elite offensively yet. Outside of like the home run, that's the only real area that the Blue Jays are elite offensively, is hitting the ball out of the ballpark. And that's what I'm saying is I don't think they're going to take Montes deep a ton. His stuff's pretty net. Like, he gets himself into trouble with command and walking guys and stuff like that. He's not just going to generally give up bombs all game. I mean,
Right.
He's pretty good at missing bats, and especially when he's on. So, and then behind it is an A's bullpen that's pretty good. So, that's what I'm trying to say is I don't see the Blue Jays coming in and just hitting like home run after home run. And the A's, they need to hit home runs to score runs because they hit for such a low average as a team. So yeah, I kind of like Matz and Montas right now, and I really like both bullpens. So it feels like 8 runs is going to be enough to work with here. I think we're going to get think we're going to get something like 4-2 or 4-3, and we should be, it should be under the total. I think 8 runs is going to be plenty to work with.
Yeah. Good breakdown, Adam. Let's go over the best bets for the day. It was you, me, and Tony Finn here. And there, guys that are in the chat room. There's going to be days like this, and they don't have a commitment just to this show or 50 others. As you heard, Tony Finn was going to do an ESPN spot. So it's all good. Tomorrow we're going to have more guys on. Rob Vino will be back. But it doesn't, at the end of the day, we're going to be rotating all these new faces into the lineup for you guys to meet. And they wouldn't be on Sports Memo or Wager Talk if they weren't, great professionals. And as you heard with Adam here, he breaks down a game. So just, look forward to that for tomorrow. And, always my NBA angle of the day is, I say that tongue in cheek because that's only one part of the handicapping process, but it sure is fun to listen to that NBA Wager Talk show. But for the recap of the best bets, we have Tony Finn, Detroit Pistons, the Atlanta Hawks. I am on the over in the Sixers game against the Chicago Bulls. And as I'll recap how I'm going to play, I'm going to do 50%. Pretty much, pretty much as soon as I hang up this show here. And then I'm going to use levels of like 207.5 specifically, 201.5 to add the other 25% respectively. And that can only occur in the first half. If we get to the half and we're not there, then don't follow those instructions because there's not enough time in the second half for you to have a chance to win those in-game bets. The best in-game bets are done in the first quarter and the second quarter of an NBA game. And then we talked about the under in the, what was it? Under like 3,000 points. Indiana, Washington.
Yeah.
So we're doing 50% pre-flop. And then if we do get a chance to get 265 or higher during the first quarter only, then we're going to buy back the bet and see how it goes. And then we'll shoot for the middle. And Adam, your best bets were?
Now it's my only bet because I just got rained out in Colorado. So my free play up at Sports Memo was the Rockies, but it looks like that game got postponed.
It is.
I'm assuming it was rain. So I'm down to one bet for Monday, and it's the one I just broke down.
The under Oakland, Toronto.
Am I still here?
You are now. I can hear you. Yep.
Okay. So A's Jays under 8.5, and if you want a lean, I guess it's not something I've played, but something that I was very close to playing. Grizzlies to beat the Knicks. I would try to find something to do with the money line. I really don't want to lay the points here. That's ultimately why I didn't bet it. I have a pretty good feeling that the Grizzlies are going to win tonight, and their money line is such where if you have the open parlay feature, I mean it's probably in the minus 170 range, but
yep.
There's still enough value there where like that's something I would consider, maybe starting a parlay, throwing an open spot or two, and then just leaving it open till you kind of run into this scenario again where you got something that you want to play. But I like doing that. And this is just a quick, just I guess general betting tip. See if your site, a lot of them, there are some of them. You probably won't have this option out in Las Vegas, but a lot of these offshore and global books will give you the option to have what's called an open parlay. And it's essentially exactly what it sounds like. It's a parlay that you can start and fill in an open spot at a later date. Yep. I love these because this is a perfect example of a time I would use an open parlay. I'll never do more than 3 teams. I generally like to keep them to 2 teams because I'm really not a guy that ever parlay. I don't like parlays. I tend to not do them. However, I think this is a great way, a tool to utilize, because what you can essentially do in a spot like this, for me, I like the Grizzlies. I don't want to lay the points. I really don't want to make a straight bet and lay that kind of vig. But I don't know what else I would pair them with on a Monday night with a shorter board. There's not really much else I like. So if you have the open parlay feature, you can open up a parlay. In this case, I would open up with Memphis on the money line, and then I would just leave it out there with an open spot, because chances are at some point throughout the week, there's going to be a side, like there might be a baseball side that pops up that's a minus 190. Normally, I'd be like, well, I can't play it. I don't know how I would play that. But if I have the open parlay sitting there and you come back to it 3 days later, then you might have a minus 180, minus 190, minus 200 that pops up that you really like. And now you essentially have like a straight bet at good odds, because you sort of stashed that open parlay out there, assuming Memphis wins. If Memphis loses, well, you just saved yourself juice at minus 170 or minus 180. So something to look for at your books. I bet a lot of you have it and don't realize it, but like check the parlay section and see if there's an option for open parlays, because I think Memphis would be a good candidate to start an open parlay with, and then just like I said, wait till something pops that you can't do anything else with on a straight bet, and fill it in later in the week. That's how I play those.
Yep, I agree. And I was going to add something to that, and I just lost my train of thought. I was going to add, what was I going to add? Ay. Well, Oh, I know what I wanted to talk about. Chip Plyler here. And this is a little transition from what you were talking about, but the topic was live in-game betting for the most part. So in terms of this, Chip, I would highly recommend, with my 26 years of experience, I'm not trying to talk to you like I'm your dad, but don't use the live in-game betting to try to cover a bad bet, because you're essentially throwing bad money or good money. You're throwing good money at a bad bet, trying to recoup what you think is a loss. Now, over time, and you say you don't bet enough to use live, so I don't know if you're experienced or not, but based on your statement, that does show that you're just kind of getting into this field. More times than not, the bettors that are just starting out that I know have really caused themselves financial problems when they try to buy, try to get out of a bad bet. If it's a bad bet, it's a bad bet. Let it go.
Yeah, take the
Um,
loss and try to get the next one.
and
I agree with
don't
that.
try to do it in game. You go to the next, Dave Koken and all the guys at Wager Talk would agree with it. But I can hear Dave Koken saying, "Yeah, you don't do parlays, you don't do teasers. You take it one day at a time, one bet at a time, and that's how you do it."
Yep.
And that's,
Yeah, absolutely.
imitating his voice very poorly, but he's been doing it an awful long time, and when you get your name put up on the Vegas boards for your 68th birthday by all the places out there, that means you must have done something right. But yeah, I wanted to mention that to Chip. And then lastly, I have no opinion on the Texas game. Well, Chip just said he's been betting 31 years. You are right. Okay, I got it. All right, so he agrees with us.
Yeah, I mean,
Yep.
I don't. There are scenarios, and it's not my style, but like, if you can get out of a wager in game, if you can get out of a wager in game, without putting yourself at risk to lose both, I don't mind that. A good example of a spot where you might want to do it is in soccer. If if a team gets a red card and
Yep.
you can get out of it, and it's your team, and it's going to significantly compromise your bet, and you can in-game your way off of your position without like putting yourself in a bad situation. I mean, stuff like that I don't mind, but yeah, I absolutely would never try to get out of a bet with any sort of possibility that I could lose both. And I'm really like John said, I'm really more of a if I was wrong, I was wrong, and I just kind of take it and move on to the next one. But
Yep.
there are, I know, successful bettors that will see something, or they'll have something in mind, and if it happens, they go and try to maneuver their way off of a position in play. Not my style, but it's not wrong by any means. It's just, like everything, parlays and teasers are not bad. It's just you have to do it responsibly. You have to do them responsibly to give yourself an advantage. Like a 6-point NFL teaser, if you can still find it at -110 or -115 juice, is one of the sharper bets you can make. It's just people say, oh, teasers are bad bets or sucker bets or whatever you want to say, because your average person's out there might be firing those, but they're not cutting across key numbers, or they're firing teasers in basketball, which you should never do, putting totals in teasers, which you should never do. So it's really just like, using them as a tool when needed responsibly. And by responsibly, I mean like where you're still giving yourself an edge of some sort. And yeah, I mean, if you can get an edge by getting off certain games in play,
Yep.
That's fine. But it's just, I definitely would not just sort of watch a game and say, oh, like this doesn't look good, so now I'm going to go the other way and take a bad number in doing so. Because I know people that do that, and I can promise you they are not winning sports bettors. So
It's the same. I'll conclude the show with this. It's the same when I was on Wall Street. You got to have a plan before the market opens. So you got to have your support and resistance levels identified, and you got to stick with the game plan. So to let a game start not knowing how you're going to bet it, what's going to happen to you, and this is a new financial term I'm going to share with Steve Merrill tomorrow, because we're the only two that are allowed to say them. You're going to get whipsawed. And what whipsawed means is that you're going to have a bet that's going against you, and then suddenly you're going to say, oh, screw this. This team sucks today. And this happens in the NFL a lot. The team I bet on sucks, so I'm done. I'm going to take the other team so I don't lose anything. And guess what? I bet you it's probably in the mid-60s you're going to lose both of them. And then that's where it becomes a real problem. So take my word for it. In NBA totals pregame, you have a plan. And I gave you the plan for the 2 games. And you stick with it. And if it doesn't work, then you move on to tomorrow. But to try to, my example showed emotion. And, when you have emotion in betting or investing, you should probably do anything but invest or bet. You should probably go take a break, go play golf, walk the dog, whatever. So this kind of driving that point home a little bit. I'll be probably on Twitter tonight for a while with these basketball games for the in-game. I'll try my best to get them out when I execute. And to recap, the best bets here before we let you go, Adam has under Oakland, Toronto. I actually have that at 8.5 now, so that's good for you.
That's what I took. 8.5 is what I took there. Yeah. Yep.
Then we have me with Denver Nuggets in-game plus 2.5. And that would be a full 3% bet over Philly, Chicago in the NBA. I don't know where it's at, 211, 212. And then Tony Finn, Detroit Pistons, and the Atlanta Hawks. So 3 guys with pretty many picks tonight. So hope they come through for you guys.
I'll add one more. If you can't open parlay the Grizzlies, I think Grizzlies Nuggets both on the money line would be a reasonable thing to get involved with. Yep,
very good.
I wouldn't go nuts because I'd never go nuts on a parlay, but I think it's going to come out to probably slightly over even money, which is like, if you're going to do those are the parlays I like to do, where I can take 2 teams that I like that are going to, but not have to lay the odds, but still get like slight plus money. And so I think if you were going to, if you wanted a little extra in the NBA, I don't think that's a terrible bet.
No, that's good.
2 team money line parlay, Grizzlies to Nuggets. I don't think it's a bad bet. So there's another one.
That's good. Like good pizza money bet.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's what I'm thinking of right now is pizza. So we're going to end the show on that note. Adam, thanks for joining me. Tony Finn, as always, he's on the air with ESPN now. We'll be back tomorrow with a big lineup. I have David Behrman coming on from ESPN for the PGA. 9 shows in a row. He's giving out winning picks. It's ridiculous. He's like the biggest ATM you can imagine. And compared to the Knicks, he dwarfs them. He dwarfs the Knicks ATM machine. So that's at 1:00 tomorrow. And there'll be other shows too with sports member Cruise and Wager Talk. And then we'll end the day here at Manny's Pub with your host, John Ryan, exhausted but having fun. So for Adam, myself, Tony Finn, and the Predictive PlayBook, sportsmemo.com, Wager Talk, may all the wins be yours.
All right, take care.